नमस्कार आप सबका स्वागत है welcome everybody. It's exactly 11 a.m. in India. I'm welcoming you all. Please join up. I'm ready to have my conversation with Ajay Seth, CFO and member of Executive Board, Maruti Suzuki India Limited. Let's get set for an interesting, invigorating one. Namaskar. Good morning, everybody. It's a Sunday morning here in India. And wherever you are, in whichever part of this country or any part of the world, I welcome you all to this conversation today. We are in conversation with Ajay Seth, CFO and member of the Executive Board, Maruti Suzuki Limited. And the conversation is called Motoring Ahead. Motoring Ahead. So get set and Ajay is here, and let me have the privilege of inviting him over. Namaskar, स्वागत है आपका, Ajay.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you so much.
So to let everybody know, Ajay happens to be my senior from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, my school in Delhi, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Vallabh Ram Mehta Vidyalaya, and we met after years, a year and a half back. And now we are meeting in lockdown times in slightly different scenarios. But we said that life goes on, and yes, it does. And so welcome, aapka swagat hai, and I'm very happy to have you here.
Thank you, Ashish, and thank you for having me over on your program. Very happy to be here and have a clear and clean, candid chat with you today.
Wonderful. So it begins with school, right, Ajay? I mean, all of us, school has been, even though, school was eons back for a whole lot of us, but it all began. So what is it that you remember about school?
Wow, I mean, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan memories are still so live in my mind. This, was a journey for me which is unforgettable. We were the first batch of commerce, incidentally, and we passed out in 1976. That was the year when the first batch of commerce passed out from the school. And that time, commerce was a very new subject. And we had a new teacher who had joined as a commerce teacher. I still remember the kind of determination our principal, Dr. M.P. Chaya, had in terms of promoting various fields in the school, including commerce, which was introduced that year. Well, there are a variety of memories that I have, and I think the good times that we had in school in terms of trying to break rules once in a while, trying to look at things very differently, trying to have aspirations and desires that today we could fulfill because with the value system that were taught in the school were absolutely remarkable. And today what we are is largely because of the teachers and the way we were taught in the school, the value systems, and you would also tend to agree with me because you were there for a while and you also looked at how things went around. So I think I still and believe me that I still have groups where I have friends whom I still interact with. We meet once in a while. So that is the kind of association that we all have with the Bhavanites and the school as well.
And what you said was so beautifully put, when you said that Dr. M.P. Chaya, that amazing Dr. Chaya, he kind of really created, he embedded in us certain values and also aspirations. And I love that choice which you made. How have these two, at one end values and the other end aspirations, going into professional life, and I will be coming into the absolute thick of your professional life, but values and aspirations, can they go together?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what's happened in my case. Because the kind of values that you imbibe in yourself once, and then you live up to it, they really help you in your long-term career. When you shape as a leader, it's very important that you are able to demonstrate those values, and it flows across your team, and that's how people start respecting you, regarding you as a leader.
Mhm.
The aspirations that you have will never come true unless the value system, is actually implemented and actually brought in use in your real life. What we were taught was determination, leadership skills, hard work, uh, integrity, I think, above everything else. Because when you are working over a longer period of time, and I've been now almost 36, 37 years of work life, you have so many temptations, so many things that come your way. So how do you deal with all that? How do you create an ecosystem which is robust, professional, where people really look up to you? Well, I've said always one thing to all my people. It's always, as a boss, everyone will be saluting you, saying good words about you. But you are regarded as a good boss and a good leader if somebody on your back praises you and says, "This man is incredible," or "This man is doing a good job." So that's how your quality of leadership is known, and that comes through the value system that you have been taught initially in your life, both from your home and from the school.
Very interesting. In fact, as I see it, when we put these two together, aspirations and values, one of the things that values can tell us, and which tells me, and as evidently tells you also, is that not at any cost. uh, the values keep us grounded to, tells us that what can never be taken off the table, even as we strive towards our aspiration. And as you said, that when we start embodying it, then probably people around also are noticing it. But most importantly, for this personal this personal journey, um, if those values are in place, then aspirations and also the will to do things differently, or even as you said, doing some things interestingly, are still within. We know what are the margins in which we are. So it's not at any cost, and there are things at stake. How important do you think it is for any one of us, as we even begin this conversation, to have something at stake when we are actually going towards our aspirations?
There are a lot of sacrifices that you have to do in life to achieve certain aspirations.
Mhm.
And, typically a professional, including people like me and you, would have seen that happening. Because one is, how do you balance your work-life balance? It's something extremely difficult. So there's an element of sacrifice that you have to do. And one of the spouses has to play that role to kind of balance the equation. So usually it is the one who is spending more time at home. So that's one part. Second is, there are sparkles that you get in terms of either jobs with big money or not being professional. So you have to divide and see. You have to. It's a thin line. You have to
Yes.
see what do you really want in life. Do you want good quality work, content, value, and be known as a good professional, being respected by people, or do you
Mm.
want money? So I think it's something that you have to be very clear in your mind in terms of what your aspiration is. And therefore, again, I come back to the same thing that you mentioned in the beginning. All this draws down from the value system that you have been imbibed with, either at your home or in the school.
And that it, in a way becomes our pole star, something which guides us. So here is an interesting one also. I mean, like, Maruti, like for so many people in India, has been a part of aspiration. Growing up in a house where we never had a car and we always wanted a car. And my father always, we used to live in Karol Bagh, Ajay, and we used to travel by taxi a lot.
Hmm.
from the taxi stand, and Sadaji, who's used to regularly drive us, he used to talk to Baba about getting us a second-hand Morris Minor. And that time, I think it cost some 35,000 rupees, and Baba never had it. So car was an aspiration. I remember sitting at Mandi House years later also. I used to have a Hero Honda, which I used to call Meri Gaadi Hai. Ye Meri Gaadi Hai. So I used to sit there, and we used to see cars going past, and the cars during summers, which had their glasses up. Okay, that meant it was an AC car. So AC was still so I remember when I didn't have a car, when you don't have a car, it is really an aspiration. And Maruti, for the first time, got us into a world that we could have something that the world has, right? With us. So when I got my first Maruti years back after becoming an actor in Bombay, this I think sometime in 95, I think 94 or sometime, I still remember the jubilation that, that key. I still remember that key. Somehow, does it, as you're working with Maruti, do you actually experience that you're actually, it's the aspiration of so many people for decades now, for that first car to be a Maruti and then to progress? How does it feel when you are working in an organization which is so aspirational and for decades?
Yeah, sure. So let me first say that it's great. It's an absolutely amazing place to work in, and I've been here for a very long time. Amazing place because you have a blend of Japanese culture and you have a blend of Indian culture, and it works very well. It's very very well blended culture. And this whole concept of transformation of the automotive industry, this whole revolution started in early 80s. When we set up this factory first time, and we were so used to ambassadors in Fiat by then, the old technology, that one was amazed to see a technology which was very different and very new and very affordable. So the whole idea of bringing a car that time, and this was, of course, as you know, it was conceived by by Sanjay Gandhi, who thought of setting up a factory at that point in time, and this was set up by Government of India, and it was a public sector company then. So Japanese were happy to be in here. There's a story behind it, that how Suzuki got chosen as a company, because there were various contenders, and at one point in time, government was looking at someone else, but they came in at the last minute, and government thought that, wow, small car will be a much better proposition for India because people can afford small car better than a bigger car. So that's how it came in. And Suzuki also was not sure because India was virtually a minuscule market at that point in time. So they were also not sure. But once the factory was set up and there was so much of traction in terms of people buying cars, and you remember there was a waiting for the cars for initial many years. People would have to wait to get book and wait for maybe months and years to get their cars. So we realized that we have to create a mobility solution for people in the long run, increase our capacity, bring more technology, do things differently, and also address the issue of affordability of cars. So we were very community focused, we were very customer focused, that we should bring a product which is the right product, which is affordable, and over a period, as we grew more technology in products, so start addressing the entry level customers, start addressing the mid-segment customer, and start addressing the customers who could afford maybe slightly expensive cars. So there was a variety of stuff that started happening over this period. One thing that we always did was we always looked at the nation and the society at large, because when you are manufacturing, you're creating tremendous amount of jobs for people. One car generates directly or indirectly about 6 to 7 jobs. So you can imagine that if you have a large scale, what kind of employment generation capability this kind of a sector has, or automotive companies have. We've also looked at how do you ensure environmental friendly cars, how technology can play a role in bringing cars which are environmental friendly. So I think
we will come to that. I'll just hold you to that. I will come to that today. But the point which you raised right in the beginning, and I want to really progress that way, that when you said that let's some other car company could have been there, but Suzuki was chosen. And then the small car came in, a small car,
Yeah.
because it could be affordable, one side. So here we are setting up something which will employ a lot many people and yet address the needs of very many. All right. Now, would this kind of a judiciousness, would it continue to manifest itself as we move forward, that to really look at what is it that the clients maybe having an aspiration for, but even kind of like vote for the future, which doesn't exactly is not exactly seen at this moment? Would that be a future ready step? Is that something which businesses could continue to look at?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I think there are few transitional things that are happening today.
Mhm.
While we grow in the sector, while the industry keeps growing, barring the last few years, and there are reasons for slow growth. But if
Yes.
you were to look at long run, we are now third largest car market in the world. So you
Yep.
can imagine, from nowhere to a third largest market. I think what's really going to happen is that there is going to be a lot of technology intervention as government, has put more stringent norms of controlling pollution. So there are norms which are called the CAFE norms, for example, or the real drive emission norms. So all these are going to come in next 3 to 4 years. So you will see a whole lot of electric vehicles. You will see a whole lot of hybrid vehicle technology which will come in. So and people will have to bring in engines which are more fuel efficient. So you'll be seeing more peppy engines coming in, cars with peppy engines coming in. So I think the real ball game is about the transition that's going to happen from here to now. But please remember, India is still a very penetrated car market. Our
Mhm.
penetration in India is still about 25 per thousand. If I compare this with, let's say, a country like US will be something like 900 per thousand. So if
Huge
you
scope.
imagine potential, I
Yep.
think it is huge. And as per
Huge.
capita goes up, as income level goes up, and economy starts reviving and starts doing well, you are up for big time growth. So I think it's a question of meeting aspiration of all the people, and at some point in time, everybody would like to buy a car. It's a question of also addressing government's requirements and regulatory needs. So it's a combination of these things that will take us forward and the industry forward. And I'm sure this is what everybody is working at.
And do you also see that, getting better? So at one end, it is, as you said, the peppier cars, which will be more fuel efficient, to probably the electric cars. Now, where are you seeing it going? Is it going to be, because how much more fuel efficient can you make a fast moving car with the old technology, which is gas guzzling? So do you see that, with the existence of the kind of norms which are being stringently applied now, and ever more in the future, do you think that we are going to be seeing it sooner than later, the complete transition to the
Yeah,
electric
absolutely.
period?
Yeah, absolutely. I think government's footprint is very clear,
Hmm.
and the norms which have a deadline compulsively make you change your mix towards these technology driven cars. So
Mhm.
unless you do that, you will not be able to meet these norms. So I think it is certain that you will have to move to that in that direction. There are different timelines given. The first year of completion is 2023, and then 2027. So you will see significant uptick in terms of the electric cars and the hybrid cars, and then the more fuel efficient engines which will hit the market from now to the next 5 to 6 years. And I don't think there is any escape to it. The world is moving in that direction. Everywhere you see a clear push for electric vehicles.
Sure.
India is still behind, but I am sure it will catch up pretty fast.
And so one thing which also interests me, when I look at car markets, is the second hand cars. All right. So remember, we used to see that, there were these even three-wheeler scooters in Bombay. Then later on, they are sold, which go into hinterlands and they go. So do you see this kind of a trajectory also happening till the electric cars come up in the cities and go that away? or do you see the electric cars and the hybrid cars mushrooming first everywhere? Is there going to be a change in that?
Uh, yeah, so the growth will happen gradually. It's not going to happen overnight. There will be a cost to technology, so therefore it's also a question of affordability. But as the volumes go up, the prices will start coming down. So I think it will happen over a period. It's not going to happen immediately. Every technology transformation takes a bit of time, but people will
Yes, it
get used
does.
to it at some point in time. And I'm sure government has also given certain SOPs by way of lower duties on the electric cars and so on, and that also will help the consumer get cars at a slightly cheaper prices.
Hmm.
So I think that's definitely going to be there in terms of his his need, etc. What was the other thing you asked? I forgot
The
the
other
first
thing
part
that
of
I
it.
asked is that will these existing cars which are being made in the
Oh,
next 2 or 3 years, will they go into the second hand category, and so that the
yeah.
transition is simpler?
So second-hand car market in India is a pretty large car market. You know, it's
Mhm.
a huge car market,
Yeah.
and it's divided into two parts. You know, one is a formal market, car market, and one second is the informal car market. Unfortunately, even today, a large portion of this is an informal car market. So
Mhm.
what, as a company, we have done is that we have created a concept called a true value outlet, where we call a customer, he goes
Yeah.
to a dealer and he can sell his car. You know, he can be assured that his car is going in the right hands,
Right.
and
Right.
we then refurbish and sell again. But what it also does is that we are able to ask a customer, will he like to exchange his old car with a new car? And believe me that about 25% of the customers who come in, they actually exchange cars. And we believe that this can really go up significantly as the informal car market moves to the formal car market.
Got it. So actually, a produced vehicle is going to be lasting longer. Is going to be used longer. So probably at some point, and something which I do believe in, that the use and throw, in terms of actually reusing it, repurposing that vehicle, and as you said, that refurbishing it, so that the life of it continues even though the new generation vehicles are there. How important do you think this is in terms of people getting that, even as we move towards more fuel efficient ones, the ones of the earlier generation will continue to be used for a while before they are completely phased out?
The trend today really is that a consumer who can afford will buy a new car. You know, this is very clearly evident. But
Hmm.
but there are families who want an additional car, and they say, okay, we already have a new car, so why don't we look at a second-hand car? So you know, it's a combination of the two. But the shelf life of a car, which earlier used to be, for example, a customer will exchange car after 7 years or 10 years, is now moved back to about 4 to 5 years. So
Four
roughly
to five
about
years.
4 years is a cutoff period when he wants to upgrade his car or change his car.
Hmm. So, so now just coming back to, I had the privilege of visiting your plant as I was, preparing for a program which I was leading for you people. One thing which struck me, Ajay, which you also mentioned, is the beautiful, I saw the Japanese and Indian culture really going together in the thing, in terms of the captioning, I remember your team explaining to me that how everything is very clearly illustrated, so there is no confusion. How important do you think this play of these two cultures, and how Maruti has been using it, how important do you think has it been in your journey up till now, and how do you see it moving ahead?
No, I think it's a culture that is amazing, and that's something that we are very proud of.
Mhm.
So one is that when you come to our place, you will find that it's all an open office culture.
Yeah.
Everybody is sitting in open office. There is no cabin or rooms given allotted to anybody,
Mm.
and everybody is accessible. There are meeting rooms. If you have to go and do a meeting, go to the meeting room, do your meeting, come back.
Mm.
You are accessible to all your employees. They can come and talk to you. You can see them day in and day out in terms of their conduct and work profile, what content of
Mm.
work they're doing. So, and I think the good part of it is that there is a discipline that we maintain throughout. You know, there's a commitment that is always honored. So, if I am told that this is the end time of the job that's to be done, it's always delivered before that, not after that.
Yeah.
Uh, and everybody works on that kind of a disciplined mode. the training that we get in Japan is something amazing. Where if you go to Japan, and a lot of you would have, everything works so perfectly well that
Yes.
if you were to catch a train, you don't have you can set your watch with the time the train enters, so you know exactly what time it is. If you have to get down at a station, you only have to look at a watch and you know that your station has arrived. So it is so accurate. I have been there maybe about 20 times, and I've never seen even once that anything has misbehaved in any manner. Everything functions absolutely normally. It's a great learning for us in terms of how do you plan yourself, how do you execute, how do you ensure that timelines are met, how do you ensure discipline is kept at all times. So all these qualities that you find, and if you visit a plant, you will see a lot of them actually in
Yes.
people in terms of
Especially, I
ensuring
noticed
and
that
maintaining
about
that.
the timing. It's still the precise timing is maintained. If that time is meant, you're late. Very
Yeah.
clearly, it is there.
And I think one thing that they teach us, which is very unlike many of us in India, is micromanagement. So what we
Mm.
normally do is we believe in macro management, but Japanese believe in micromanagement, and therefore they're able to diagnose the problem much faster than
Quicker.
many of us. Yeah.
Got it. So here comes the interesting thing. Now we are in the midst of an interesting crisis, and it's been for a while. It's going to be here for a while. You've been a you've been an organization which has seen crises even before this. All right, and that's something which I've noticed in my life, that I've had crises like this coming up in the past also. Now, as far as Maruti is concerned, with its legacy existence in India, how do you see this crisis vis-a-vis the crisis that you may have even seen earlier?
There will be every decade you will have something or the other happening in the industry, and it's something that you have to live with, and you have to make sure that you don't get you don't derail yourself during the crisis. So
Ah,
2008 was really a period where you had these subprime crises, and suddenly things started looking extremely bad, and one thought that, oh, what's going to be the future? But I think as an organization, we were very sure that these are things that will happen, that will occur, but they are short-lived. They will be there for a year, 2 years, but they will go away. And
mm,
don't
big
lose your
picture.
big picture. Don't think about the longer period, and that's very important. And that's what we did actually in that times also. We did not. We continue to make investments that we are required to make it for research and development and capacity and so on, and we continued the work that we are required to do. Similarly, when this crisis happened today, the pandemic, we had a bad year, 1920, for industries. It was a year after many, many years, which was extremely slow and bad, and industry actually had a degrowth of about 17%,
Got it.
which is exceptional in a auto industry because auto industry is used to growth every year.
Yep.
So on the back of it, we had this pandemic, and then it was really very painful for everybody because you were regrowing, and then you had this pandemic. But now the question really is, how do you deal with it? Do you see as a curse, and then you say, "Oh, I'm going to die," or do you see that this is a temporary phenomena; it'll go away, and now start, setting your shop in order and start doing things that are required to do orderly and prepare for the future. So we chose the later. We said, okay, this is something that happens once in a while. There have been various pandemics that we have seen in the past also, but let's see what best we can do during this pandemic. So we looked internally, we looked externally. So we saw what we can do internally in terms of, our cost controls, other things that we can do, setting our house in order, and so on. Externally, how do we have a customer interface? How do we increase digital intervention? How do we
Mhm.
do things differently? And we prepared the first 3 months and the standard operating procedures for the employees themselves in terms of when they enter the factory, how are they taken care of in terms of the safety and health. So I think when we combined all this and we did all these by creating various task forces and making people responsible, the end result was that when the government opened economy and we kick-started, we were able to start pretty quickly. And today, in the month of June, July, and August, we are now back to the levels of last year. In fact, in August, we have done better than last year. So,
Wow.
so things improve if you have an open mind, a positive mind, and you are an optimist. But you have to be a cautious optimist. You have to maintain cautious optimism, but you should not be a pessimist, and you should not get worried, and you should not get derailed during these times. So that's our learning in every pandemic or every bad time that's happened in the past.
Yeah. And Ajay, I think what you brought forth was a very interesting thing. And it kind of really resonates with me that during any crisis, whatever be the name that we give to it, during any crisis, it does look the end of the road. All right. And I've always likened it to that if you look at anything very, very closely, it looks very big and it kind of says that this is the end of it. But when we kind of pull back and look at the larger picture, we get that this may last a period. It could be this or this. But in terms of the larger picture, it is nothing. And I really think that even as individuals who are listening in, or organizations listening in, if we can really look, so optimism for me is not even a forced thing. Where people think that okay, optimism is forced. Optimisticness for me is the logic of it. The logic of it is that this will pass. I mean, just like good times also won't last forever, bad times also don't last forever. The idea for me, what I really, and what you brought forth very, is that what are you doing in this period? So even in the most fantastic period, the next period is going to be determined by what you did in this fantastic period. Okay. And as you just said, that as the lockdown ceased, and you started delivering results. So how important, like really how important is it for people to remain in action when otherwise crisis paralyzes? How important do you think that is?
Absolutely, I think if you try to shut yourself, you are in doomsday. You have to all the time be in action. I think it's a question of also survival strategy. You go through a crisis, you should know how to survive a crisis.
Ah,
Growth will automatically come back. Many
yeah.
I've been in many sessions where I've been telling people that this is the time, this is the year where you should not look for abnormal profits or significant growth. You
Yeah,
should
don't
look at
make
first
don't make
survival.
unreasonable demands on your head.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
look at survival, and then look at growth thereafter, and
Hmm.
see how do you survive. What are the actions that you are required to do to survive. So I think a twin strategy of survival and then grow thereafter really will work very well with all organizations, and there should not be any panic. We know there are problems, but government is also helping us. We got 6 months moratorium from the government, so you had no cash outflows for 6 months, so you were kind of not in a position where you were to roll out big amount of money back to your banks and so on. Now that you are generating cash flows, you are in a much better position. You can live with it. So be optimistic. Therefore, I'm saying be optimistic, be cautiously optimistic, learn to survive, and then thereafter learn to grow. Because
I just
India has
love
huge
this.
potential.
I just love this because the point here is that we create doomsday by making this the doomsday, and if we can really kind of and this is where I want to segue into the next one, Ajay, and that's something which a lot of us deal with. So when we are in the midst of a crisis, when we are in the midst of something, we say that our resources are limited. All right. Now, a typical question is that actually I need more resources to get out of this crisis. Would you like to share your thoughts in
Yeah, sure.
when there is a dearth, so to say, dearth of resources? How does one source it to step out?
So optimize and productivity are two mantras that you should live with. But I would like to share something very interesting here with you. You
Mhm.
know,
Please.
I'm very fond of Dr. I'm very fond of Narendra Murthy, the chairman of Infosys.
Yes.
He made a statement a long time back that a good organization is one which has cash flows or cash available with it, so that it can run its company for 1 year if there were no operations. Yeah.
Mm.
So he gave gyan to everybody many years ago. I think a couple of decades back, and this was something that I really picked up. So what I'm saying is that there are so many gurus who teach you so many good things which you actually uh, learn, but you don't actually implement in your businesses. But if you do, it makes a lot of difference. But having said that, what is really important today is that you have to look at what are your priorities, and how do you deal with it. Now, in terms of your business, there will be lots of idle assets that you will be sitting on. For example, get rid of them. It's not required. Some people sit on unnecessary land banks, unnecessary properties, which have no relation to business. So if you need to get rid of them, please get rid of them and focus on your business. Put the money back on your business. Conserve cash, because this is the most important raw material that you have today, and see how judiciously you utilize cash. One thing that I've been saying to everybody is, make sure that you do not fire people in this crisis. If you want to reduce salaries of people, if you want to not give them increments for a year, it's fine. But please do not fire people, because this is something, as a society, we owe to them. They have worked hard, they've been loyal to us, and if one year has been bad, we should not do that. As an organization, we have kind of shown this as an example to everybody. Not only that we have not fired anybody, we also ensure that even the indirects that we have, who are at the moment most of them sitting at home, we have made sure that they are also on rolls and they are also paid salaries, because we know it's a hard time. So there is some element of humility that an organization should show during these times for people. And other than that, I think they have to focus really on their productivity, and on the optimization of resources that they have.
So these are three very, very, what should I say, very diverse, but I can see how they even come together. At one end is optimization, the other end is right in the between that I can see saving, and the third part, which I really believe in, is that staying invested in the people whom you have grown with. Okay, now if I would just get back to that first part, and I'll again come back to the people part. Um, Reallocation of resources. So there are those many resources. Will it require a rethink, reimagining that how else we can be working in this scenario? Would that be required? How important do you think that is?
Yeah, so it's very important. I think when you sit down and look at your business, you have to see what is going to work now, and what's going to work in future, and what needs to change. And therefore, there could be some aspects of business where you will have to look at different niche areas where you can do much better than what you're doing today, and therefore maneuver your business accordingly.
Maneuver.
You have to maneuver your business accordingly. You may need some element of diversification of your business. Maybe something which may take a little longer. There are sectors, like hospitality, restaurants, malls, theaters, etc. Now they will have to really reshape their business to see, because it's going to take a long time before they can get back to the new normal, right? And therefore they will have to rethink about their business strategy. They will have to think what will work. For example, takeaways or home deliveries, or something else, which is out of the box thinking. That kind of uh, reshaping will be required for their businesses. If you sit down and think this pandemic will get over tomorrow, 1 month, 2 months, it's just wishful thinking. you know any virus remains there for a longer period of time. Even if the vaccine comes, the virus is still there, no? So you have
Absolutely.
to recalibrate your business, rethink how to redesign it, and if required, and you think that it's not going to work for a longer period, uh, uh, think of an alternate solution for your business.
Even at the pace with how you shared, Ajay, very clear that the agility has at this point more than ever is needed for us to actually give up on things which we thought are the only ways to work. And
Right.
for me, in this entire thing, when teams can come together and ideate, rather than looking at people as, like this is not your responsibility. If people can be encouraged to give ideas, to kind of create a pool of ideas, who knows which idea can angle towards, as you said, something which may even bear fruit a little time from now. But but how important would tangential thinking be even for regular formalized products?
It is important for any kind of products, whether it is formal, regularized, or even informal, because, unless you do that, you would not be able to get to a size and business idea that would take you forward in terms of your business and growth.
Mhm.
Now, for example, look at a component industry, which produces components for cars. Now, they produce components for cars, they produce components for commercial vehicles or two-wheelers and so on and so forth. And they would have a variety of challenges in terms of labor, in terms of government policies, their own cash flows, because they work very very tight regime and cash flows, and they work on timelines, etc.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Now, unless they start thinking forward in terms of what their strategy is for business, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, and how should they diversify? What is it that they should do between domestic and export market, and should they also integrate backward, forward, and kind of have a business which can prosper and grow? I think these are very important things that you should now start looking at, in whichever part of business you are in. You will sooner than later find mergers and acquisitions becoming a common thing. A lot of
Yeah.
small businesses are going to get merged with big businesses, and it
True.
makes meaningful sense also. Scale will matter. You will also see some of the businesses diversifying from where they are existingly, not making profitable ventures or doing
Ajay,
business
do you
which is
see some
profitable.
collaborations, as they say, some collaborations which were otherwise not even expected or thought of? Could they kind of come into play? And are you
Yeah,
seeing such things happening?
I think one major, absolutely. I think one major opportunity that we have as a country today is that after the China episode, where a lot of companies are now thinking of going out of China, India
Mhm.
has a huge potential of getting a lot of these companies in India, who can set up shop here, and this is kind of very big. This the scale can be really big, and if we can get our acts together, if government can get its acts together and can provide shops, this can be a game changing exercise for India. It can be really really something which can be of a very large scale, and I believe that this is something that's likely to happen in the near future.
So here is a pointed question, very interestingly that you also spoke about it. And I'm being the devil's advocate at this point. Do we always do we always need a government SOP to change that?
Uh,
How important do you think it will be for an individual mindset? Because my personal take, again, in this entire thing that I've seen in my limited capacity, as an entrepreneur, as a person who kind of is a self-employed person, one thing that this period has made quite evident for me is the need, the ability, the mindset to work hard. That this period has very clearly shown that, as we have seen, that fewer people are taking on more jobs, okay, for whatever reason. Okay, let's get into a real world where people are being led, they are letting go. Organizations are letting go of people. Let's get real about this, okay? Now what is happening, which means that fewer people are doing more people's work. More and more, I am also seeing around me, all right, that people are ready to offer their services in many more ways than they ever thought. I really think that this is a period where the individual's ability to perform higher than she ever did before is coming into play. How important do you think this is going to be a mindset shift for us, that there are not going to be any free lunches or even less priced lunches? We'll really have to alter the way we are working.
I agree. I think very very relevant and a very important point that you made. In terms of our culture, we have to make sure that the productivity with which we work is extremely high. And also, I think you made a point on multi-skilling, which I think is something that's also extremely important, because you cannot have any person idling. Because if you have to have, as a country and as a nation and as a company, you need to have higher productivity and output, then you need to have people who are actually engaged in productive jobs for whatever time they work, besides whatever infrastructure tweaking that India needs, because that also creates a loss of productivity, all your commuting time and stuff like that. So I think that also needs to be addressed. So at a larger level, when I look at country, you need to look at the infrastructure improvement and make sure productivity goes up there. At a company and a nation level, you need to look at multi-skilling, productivity increase in people, in their mindsets, and shaping up in the manner that you actually can benchmark yourself with what you see in the developed markets. Now,
Exactly.
for example, we benchmark ourselves with Japan and see what what is the level of productivity there versus us. We
Yeah.
still are much lower than them. So
Yeah.
how do you reach there? And I think that's the important point you made.
Yeah. And I think another thing, see, apart from work, so at one end is work. The other end, I think that the entire context of excellence, if it can be drummed in rather from, and I don't want to disparage it, but the entire thing of jugaad, chalta hai. If we can really make excellence, our commitment to excellence as our middle name, at one end is I'm going to work hard, but ठीक है अभी इतना ही होगा देख लो इसे manage कर लो. If we can take that off, I mean, because see, it is a big deal when you say that okay, a particular country is kind of losing business, China is losing business, India has got, but it is not just working hard, not just government shops. It's also imagine our mentality that not only are we going to work hard, but we are really going to set up benchmarks for ourselves. That our the product that will go out of our organization, the product that will go
Sure.
out of my hand is going to be so amazing that it does not need to be double checked and it is not coming back and forth. How important do you think it is for I as an individual, you as an individual, each person who's listening as an individual, how important do you think our role is that the world will say, hey, yeah, this is an Indian made product, I know it is very good.
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, it goes without saying. So I would just narrate a small incident that our group chairman, Osamu Suzuki, he was in India and he
Mhm.
was addressing the ACMA conference. And, there was this talk about Make in India that time, very, very focused, Make in India, Make in India. I know everybody's talking about it. So he just made a small reference to that and he said, Make in India is fine. You should you should also focus on quality in India. It's not make in India; it's quality in India, and I think that's something which is very relevant. You
Yeah.
know, what the Ashish I feel is that in India, while we have been growing and there is so much of focus on localization, make in India, digital India, you know, and all many other initiatives that the government is taking, which are really good. But what is not really happening is that we have never invested money in research and development. You know,
Mm.
the organizations, and look at countries like Japan who progressed so fast from nowhere. It's all
Mm.
because of the R&D investments that they made, which took them from where they were to where they are now. So so I think in India we still try to copy paste. We still shy away from actually having our own R&D and creating our own brands and intellectual properties. We do a collaboration. We use that collaboration for technology, but we are not kind of creating that technology within the country. So it's very important for us to promote a good developed market has 5 to 6% of their GDP being spent on research and development.
Got it.
We
So
have nothing. We have nothing being spent on research and
So,
development.
I mean, this is a very interesting point, and I'm saying that even indirectly, now, if we are talking indirect also, consider would you think that the number of patents that we get inside of India, even through our universities and our research centers, could that be something also which could play a very important role going forward, other than just the knee jerk profits of this present moment?
It will definitely. It will. I think the whole concept of startups that is now being encouraged both by the government and by the corporates. I think that's going to play a very significant role because all these startups are doing innovation. They are creating a lot of new technology, new intellectual property in the country. But unfortunately, Ashish, even today, a lot of brilliant minds, a lot of intellectual minds, they
Right.
migrate, they go away from India, and that is where we lose. And see how many Indians are actually running the US in terms
Mm.
of technology or in terms of all senior level positions in various large organizations. So that's where the loss is. So how do we make sure that we have adequate intellectual property sitting in India and addressing the long-term needs of India? So that's important.
Yeah, and Ajay, I think what you have again pointed towards the startups. See, my child is also in the US studying computer science, and one of the things that when I listen to him, all of them are looking. So it's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? All right, and for me, with this, and therefore I'm a huge, I really support the startup culture, because what it is doing is it's giving the restless minds, restless possibilities, an opportunity to create something. And when I meant collaboration, and look at large corporations when they buy out small startups. For me, along with the buyout, what they're getting is they are allowing new ideas to be infused into the existing system. That's what I meant by the traditional. Now, the point that excites me about this future, and that's why for me, this COVID period, which has given a lot of pain to a lot of us, and to a lot of us, the pain is much beyond what you and I can imagine. But can we consider for a moment that this has shaken a lot of established things? All right, a lot of established towers have been shaken. All right, you know what it has also done? I've also felt that people who are very small, they are no longer inconsequential. We also feel that we have a role to play. That how do you see, if we can have a vibrant community of people who are saying that, hey, this is my opportunity. It is not that I'm lost here, everything is gone, I do not have any chance. I really see that this disruption, which we didn't cause, which was caused onto us, has actually dismantled the known pathways. People are actually free to find their own pathways. Do you think this kind of an atmosphere will pull more people, attract more minds, that maybe this is a place where the ground has been broken and probably something new can be created?
I think so, I think so, and there is definitely this urge now, which is seen by everybody, that there is so much of talent that, and there's so much of innovation that exists, but we are not able to formally channelize it. And it is because some of these people don't have the resources, and they cannot formally approach to convert their ideas into an intellectual property or a patent. So what I think we are now, organizations like ours are doing, is now we doing a competition amongst the startups. So they have an idea. We say, okay, we will have 200 people coming in and demonstrating to us what they have to showcase. And it's just an idea stage. They have not started commercially exploiting it yet. And if we like an idea, we choose 5, 10, 15, 20 of them, and we actually arrange for their funding, we arrange for their help them with their management, etc. And we actually ensure that they start commercially exploiting their potential. Out of the 10, two work, three work, seven will not work. But it is just encouraging. I attended a training program in Europe many years ago, and one thing that amazed me in one of the companies there was that they said, we reward our people for making mistakes. I said, why for making mistakes? He said, yes, for making mistakes, we reward them. I said, but why should you reward them for making mistakes? He says, unless they make mistakes, how will they learn? And how will they be more creative? So we encourage people that if you may have made a mistake, don't worry. And there's a program that we run. So startup is something similar. There will be
Absolutely.
people who will experiment, who will do things differently, and unless they are encouraged, unless you give them a chance, you will not get the technology that you want. You will not get the innovation that you need. And now, at least for the first time, I've seen meaningfully that there are many organizations who have started focusing on many of these startups, started nurturing them, start ensuring that they're funded. There are a lot of venture capitalists who have now angel
Investing.
investors who have come in. So I think this is now mushrooming. It will start growing at a much faster pace than what it was before. Government is also very keen on ensuring that they get the required benefits as a startup, and they are looked after. Uh, I have been involved with a few startups, for example, myself,
Mhm.
and I very closely look at them. I kind of guide them on some areas of raising venture capital, or doing things like that. But it's amazing the kind of potential these young people have, the kind of mind that they possess, and the kind of thinking that goes into their mind by disrupting the existing system and creating something which is absolutely new. So I think it's changing slowly in India. But my worry still is that how do we stop the brain drain from India?
Got it. And I get that. And I think probably just as we spoke about a little bit back, that the resources to get out of crisis will be in the crisis itself. I think as a solutioning of this entire thing that you kind of brought forth, Ajay, probably I see it in this crisis as new blood, new ideas will come up. And as you said that at even at Maruti Suzuki, you people are engaging with startups, because this is such a phenomenal idea that I was reading it on the comments. Imagine large established industries allow these new startups to also infuse something into them. Now that for me is osmosis happening, and reverse osmosis happening, where we are allowing new ideas to come in. For me, another thing that really strikes, in terms of the topic that for us today, motoring ahead are also was also finding new ways to motor ahead. Is not just the vehicle, but also what is the path we are taking. And what you have brought forth very beautifully, Ajay, in this conversation, what I could get is that the way of thinking of our earlier periods of dealing with crisis as an adversity, it needs to get altered. Really looking at this moment, not emotionally, but really getting that this moment is nudging us. It probably has fast forwarded a change, which many people say, yeah, in India, it'll take some time. It has happened in India. All right. The thing that we said, yeah, yeah, maybe let's see. Yeah, I mean, like, West May it happens, but here it has been fast forward. Now, this I really think is a fantastic opportunity for large industrial groups, for startups, for the government of India, for organizations across the world to see that we have the water has been muddied, my friend. The still water has been muddied. So the resources and everything are around. I think this is a great opportunity for bright minds to use these resources. All right. So as a final passing comment of yours, I want to pick your brains on just one thing. How important is experience when experience is open to new ideas? Somebody who's as experienced as you, how important are new ideas to infuse so that for this future, the wisdom of the experience is available, who's open enough to new ideas?
I think experience always has relevance, but you have to be really mentoring people in the areas where you think things are required to shape up. Things are required to be worked much better, and you should also use your experience in terms of what can go wrong and what can go right and how to do things differently. I think today is the time when it's more about innovation. It's more about thinking very differently. It's unlearning is very important. Some of us with our experience keep thinking about our ways of doing things. It doesn't hold. Things keep changing, so we have to also unlearn from time to time. What happened in the past may not be true today. Things are done so differently. For example, we were used to a certain way of working. Today, you have robotic process automation. Everything is worked by a robot. You put a system, you tune a robot with a particular process, and the robot would do this to you within minutes, within an hour. So things have changed so much. I think for us, it's important to unlearn and keep refreshing ourselves. It's also important to uh, mentor people with our experience in terms of what we have seen, in terms of business, in terms of challenges, in terms of crisis, in terms of difficult times, and the kind of leadership that we've gone through over this period. what works, what does not work. So I think these are things that needs to be collaborated with the young minds, and to shape them up for the future tomorrow.
Very beautifully summed up, Ajay. My personal take on learning is that it's more always to do with only learning, because unlearning is a bit like trying to take out salt from if it is already there in a dish. But what is available to each one of us, and whatever experience that each one of us may have, is just our ability and want and hunger to stay relevant, allows us to remain abreast with what the world needs, and then finding ways to fulfill it. So thank you, Ajay, because I spoke to a senior of mine from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. You really illuminated me today in this interaction, Ajay. I'm sure it would have been of value to people who are listening in. I also want to share with you another very interesting thing, that through this period, all that we have been creating at Avid Minor, we are coming out with an open workshop on the 18th of September on Book My Show. It's called the Zone Workshop, in which I've specifically created. Can we have that logo of that? So what we have done is that we are trying to create a workshop in which people can power through this period. Whatever stops us, we've got a lot of voices telling us not possible, cannot do, let this period change, then only we can do. So I've created a pre-packaged workshop, both in Hindi and English, which is on the 18th of September. So I've tried to put in a few of the learnings that I have gotten in this period, so that we can keep moving and keep delivering our results even in this period. So I'm taking this opportunity to even share with people on all this. So thank you for the banner. So thank you, each one of you, for having attended this session with Ajay. Ajay, thank you so much for being here, making time on a Sunday morning for us, in deep appreciation. Deep appreciation.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ashish, and namaste. Thank you so much.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप सबका. Your words are really very, very powerful. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप सबका. Thank you, each one of you. You have an extraordinary Sunday and a phenomenal week ahead. Let's stay bright and let's all stay amazing and open to new ideas. We have to, each one of us,